This is Sean, and what I've got here is a 1997 SC2, and there comes a point in every Saturn's life where it gets wrecked or whatnot, but it ends up where the best thing to do with it is part it out. And so what I'm going to show you how to do today is how to part out a Saturn in a pretty quick and efficient way. And so what we're going to do here today is we're going to take this engine and drivetrain, and in a very controlled way we're going to drop it out the bottom of the car, and then we're going to lift the car over top of it and end up with a pretty quick way to pull the engine, transmission, and any other parts you might want, and then dispose of the rest of the car. And so what I've done so far, taking the battery tray out, taking a few things loose. This AC was empty, and so I didn't have to get it evacuated. It was already empty. And then I'm going to use my engine crane here, and we're going to pull the car up and over top of the drivetrain once we drop it. What else I've done so far is I got the car jacked up here on jack stands, and I have taken the shifter cables loose. I've taken this front motor mount loose, and right now I am draining the brake fluid just to kind of keep things a little bit cleaner. And so what I've done is I've taken out the first engine cradle bolt, and I'm about to take out the next one, and I'll show you what's going to happen here is when we take these engine cradle bolts out, so what we've got now is basically the strut here, and these mounting nuts are what's holding up the engine cradle and the engine right now. And so once we get the cradle bolts free on the other side, we're going to take the car and jack it down to the floor, and then come back and remove these three strut nuts from each side, and that should let it fall. I'm over here at the passenger side of the car here, and what I've done is I've taken the front cradle bolt loose, and now I'm about to get this last one loose, and I've taken the brake lines, they're draining. I disconnected the ABS, and so this last bolt, you want to be real careful with it, and so here we go. Alright, now what we've got is you can see right here where I just pulled that in a little bit, but now the only thing holding this whole drivetrain up is going to be these three bolts or nuts on each side. And so now the beauty of dropping your drivetrain in this fashion is now you can stand out of the way and pop these three nuts out, and it's relatively safe. And so what I'm going to do first, you can see that we've got, you know, a good 6 or 8 inches between the ground here, and so I'm just going to drop the car down a little bit so that when the drivetrain falls out, it's not going to slap the concrete too hard. So let's drop the car down. Drop the car down a little bit on the jack stands, and you can see that the engine and cradle are still kind of being supported in the air. Oh, here we go from the top. I took the hood off too, but I've disconnected and cut any lines or wires or hoses that are still connecting to the engine, and so you can see kind of what's going on in here. And so now we're going to go ahead and take these bolts out, these nuts out. There's one side. And now the engine should be pretty loose and free. And one other thing I did here is I took and I loosened up this nut or this bolt on the steering right here, and you can see that it's still attached. So I'm going to have to go in there with a little pry bar and get that to loosen up. But next what we want to do is we want to lift the car up and slide the cradle and drivetrain out from under. Okay, what I've done is I've lifted the car way up in the air and just grabbed a hold of this engine and drivetrain and everything and just slid it right out of the way. And as you can see too, got a few more parts to pull. I've got a clutch hydraulics hanging there and my shifter cables, which are hanging there. And so one thing you want to note is obviously there's no front suspension on this car, and so I thought of that already. And next we will load the car up on a trailer and get it ready to haul off to the scrapyard. Alright, we're getting ready to load up the car on the trailer, and so I still got it hanging on the front end here. And what I've got is my trailer backed up here. Got a couple of skids laid out on the trailer. I've got my winch hooked up to the back of the car. And so the idea here is we're just going to pull the car with the winch up on the trailer and let the engine hoist just kind of roll along as the car gets pulled and support the front end. So here we go. Okay, I've got everything hooked up, so let's see if we can get this car on here. And obviously I've got a pretty big incline right here, and so I've got my wheel chock in case the car starts to roll on its own. And it's getting a little bit crooked here, so I'm just going to go push it a little bit, try and line it back up. You can see I shored up my engine hoist a little bit. Straighten it out a little bit. Okay, now it's just a matter of working it and winching it on, but this is how we load up our car on the trailer, or the wrecker if someone's going to come get your car. Alright, what I ended up doing is putting the emergency brake on. This brake is in really poor adjustment, so hopefully that'll keep our car from rolling too far, too fast. We'll keep the wheel chock handy though. And now we're hitting the back of the looking pretty good here. Let me go straighten out the front end again. Looks better. We want to position our sliders too back so that we don't scratch up our trailer. And that's about as close as we're going to get with the jack there. So we're going to check our sliders again, drop the car down, and then winch it the rest of the way. Okay, I've got the engine hoist out of the way here. Now the car's sitting on the trailer on these little 2x4s, and just to kind of center it up a little bit better, I'm just going to pull it down a little bit more. And there it is. Now you can park the trailer and continue harvesting parts, or like with this car, you can just haul it off in the next couple of days, but you're in a good position to take your rear wheels off as well. The interior on this car is black leather. It's in fair shape. I might pull it. It's got a leather steering wheel. I might pull that too. I'll pull the mirrors, of course. But that is how to part out a Saturn.